Hey guys, you're welcome to another episode of Founders Connect. Here, right, I have conversations with leading entrepreneurs in Africa. But for this particular episode, I'm doing something different. I'm not speaking to who you consider a typical entrepreneur, right? Say, I want to start my own company, I want to look for fun, I want to start from scratch. But he's the person that is now known for launching companies in Nigeria. So I thought about it, I'm like, he might as well be a founder. It's just that it's not your idea, right? But you're the guy literally bringing into the country. So today I'm speaking to Babajide.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much. I'm super excited to, talk to you and learn from you and learn about your journey. I followed you I met you in 2017, so like 4 years now.
Yeah, at Andela, yes.
Yeah, at Andela, and I'm like, okay, SafeBoda. Now I'm like, So I'm just like, I'm a fan, and I say that like with all sincerity. It's not even like Twitter.
I'm a fan like too as well, so like yeah.
Wow. Okay, so we can compete for the fan base. But yeah, guys, let's listen to Babajide. I will try as much as possible to get him to tell us his story, right? His career, his background, and we can just learn from every single thing. All right, peace. Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm PC Timmy, a change maker, professional and creative who is passionate about growing people and growing businesses. Like, comment, subscribe to my channel, and please always share my videos. It promises to always be impactful and insightful. So let's start from like the very beginning. Like, give us like a sense of your background. What was growing up like for you? Where did you grow up? What schools did you go to?
Yeah, sure. So I grew up on Allen.
In
Lagos. Yes, Lagos. Yeah. So I was born in Lagos, born in Apapa, but grew up on Allen most of my life, all of my life actually. Family of four. My mom and dad weren't together, and so like I was raised by a single mom too as well, and I'm the firstborn, so like
lots of pressure.
So lots of pressure. Grew up into a family that we believed in like being smart, and once you're smart, you get rewarded. You don't do house chores, you don't do like any of the things. Like it's a case of that like on Saturday morning you are sleeping at 10. And my mom is like, leave them. Yes, because like once your grades were up, like you got away with really virtually anything. And so that's the kind of family that like grew up with. Went to Command for my secondary school. For university, I went to Bells University at that point in time after there was a spat between my runaway dad then and my mom, where he wanted me to go to another university, and my mom was like, no way. And so she got angry, pulled all the money she had together in this life, and then I was just like, you're going to a private university, here's the money. And so went to private school, spent 5 years reading engineering. And in my 4th year, I then now realized that, oh my God, I don't think I like what I'm doing. Like, I don't like this course.
It took you 4 years.
Yeah, it took me. No, I knew it, but I was building up to that point. But then by the 4th year, I went to do my internship at Skybank on Nadiola Hopewell. And that road is known for like flooding. So every time and it was summer period. So once it rains, actually it was rainy season. Once it rains, then the entire banking halls will be flooded. And so you have to go around the branches in VI to go and disconnect the systems from the floor to put them on the desk. And then when the rain dries out of the banking hall, you put it, like talking like leg deep inside water type stuff. So I was just like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to be doing computer engineering. I need to break away from it. And so when I finished university, I was supposed to go back to that same Skybank because like that was where my mother had like her one and only connection, and I refused to go.
Only connection.
I refused to go there, and so the entire thing of that. What's wrong with my son? Have they jazzed him? This, that, and all the life people or village people have already started to like attack him, and I just stayed at home until one day when I actually was with my brother and his then girlfriend, and she was talking about her friend's company who was looking for like a data entry intern. And so I'm like, okay, I'm doing nothing, I can do that at this point in time. So they hooked me up with an interview. I went there and immediately I got into the reception. I'm like, okay, I need to
is
work
good.
here.
Oh.
Like, this is where I want to work. The reception was very, very fine. Like, very fine. And
As
so,
compared to Skybank that was flooded.
yeah, that was flooded. Like, it was in UBA house. It was on the 4th floor. It was Phillips Consulting at the time. And so we were there doing the tests. We had like batteries of tests, aptitude tests, tests for trainability. That was one thing that was, and it turned out I was super trainable at that point in time, because like I came top 5 out of it.
Right.
5 of us, they took us to a room, gave us computers, and they were like, oh, they're giving us Excel and everything. So I started to poke around the room. What did you study? And then they were saying, oh, someone did chemistry, someone did engineering, someone did, I think, say sociology. And I said, I did computer engineering. And so they were all intimidated immediately. And so, like, once I saw they were intimidated, I knew that was the firepower I needed. I got the job at Phillips, and then I started as a data entry person. What my job was every time the consultants went for business interview meetings, they come back with complimentary cards. They would dump it on my table. I'm the one who will be filling it into the computer, building a database.
Wow.
And so that was how I started. But aside doing all that, I was the guy who was, do you want to photocopy? Do you need me to do stuff? So I was that guy who used to do all that stuff, like all the grunt work. And so certain people start to take interest in you when you're that person for them. That. And so one day I was doing the business card, and I remember someone coming. She became like my then manager, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm typing business card." And she's like, "Leave it. You have more important things to do." And that was it. Like,
wow,
that was how I
stopped typing.
That's how I stopped typing business cards into it, and then I was drafted into the human capital side of consulting, and then I was drafted into my first ever project, which was SEC recruitment. I think that was in 2011. Yes, and so
10 years ago.
Yeah, that's how my career started. Finished my NYSC at the company, got retained, spent 4 years at the company, was great. Promotions, you get to travel, working on nice projects. But then consultants, well, at that point in time, they weren't paying so well. Like, consultants don't make so much money. And so it was time for me to like move into the industry. So I kind of like took a leap of faith, and then I went to join Access Bank.
Oh, so you went back to banking?
Yeah, I went to banking, yes. But then I didn't go into IT. I was in human resources in Access Bank. And so I was a human resource business partner for 6 months. Moved from there to projects, because I had consulting background, so I could do like transformation projects on like process improvement, process reengineering for HR processes. And so I did 1 year there. Once the processes were done and re-engineered, and then I now moved to talent acquisition. And so most people usually ask me the question, and they're like, you had HR, today you are a general manager. How did you transition to as well? And it's a pretty much interesting story. So at the time, there was someone who had reached out to me on Twitter, and that is the reason why I take Twitter very seriously. So this person had reached out to me on Twitter, and she was like, she's new in HR, she needs some help. So I gave her, there's this book called Armstrong. Every HR person knows it, because every HR person must have read Armstrong. And so I told her to read it, and she was there. We used to have conversations, and we're just talking for like a whole year. And then this day, she's like, hey, my company is looking for a recruitment manager. And so the company was Andela.
Ah.
And I'm like, oh, sure, I do talent acquisition here, so why not if not? And at that point in time, I was dead out of my mind. I was frustrated at the bank, because it was a clear disconnect. Like, think of me now, and think of me being in the bank. Like, full-blown clear disconnect. And so I applied for the job, went through a series of interviews, and I was supposedly the top candidate.
Why you say
but
supposedly?
Because there's a very interesting story around it. And so, and I'm always very proud of that story, because it just shows certain level around like grit, and sometimes you not backing down and you being able to say, forget about all the jobs I've applied for, I never had the skill set for it. But I got the skill set on the job, because like you learn on the job.
Yeah.
And so I had done the entire interview for a recruitment manager. And then Andela goes quiet for like, what, 1 month. They didn't say anything. And so I'm sending them emails, and they're like, don't worry, we'll get back to you. And they were just quiet. And then one morning, they sent an email, and the email was the hiring manager, who was like, hey, thank you for interviewing with us, and blah, blah, blah. But we've kind of like changed the role and the scope of the role. And so now we're looking for someone who has more community management experience, community engagement, who is connected to the developer ecosystem, and things like that. I can't remember, it was around 7 in the morning, and I was driving, my wife was seated beside me, and the email came in, and I'm like, she should read it for me. And she read the email for me, and I just got downcasted. And so she saw that look in my face, and she's like, hey, do you really want this job? And I'm like, yes. She's like, okay, if you really want it, think very well, you know what to do. And so we went by our work that day, and then at 6 p.m., I cannot forget, because like, for me, like, all these things are landmarks that show I have the capacity to be more, because these were the decisions and the time where I
like
took
pivotal moments.
Yeah, pivotal moment that changed everything. And so at 6 p.m., I sat down, put up my computer, then typed a response to say, thank you very much for this rejection, but I still think I'm the man for the job, because I studied engineering in school. I do talent acquisition. I know how to do like graduate recruitment in campus. I know how to do campus turn. I know how to design recruitment strategies, and I know how to talk to people. And my friends are typically the guys who are currently building some of your exciting ecosystems or communities right now. So I think you will need to talk to me. And so I sent the email, and then 2 days later, I got a response to say, oh, okay, I think we want to hear you. At this point in time, I'm copying Shani, everybody in the email, and they're like, oh, we want to hear from you. We're in Lagos in 2 weeks' time. Can we set up time? So I'm like, sure, why not? 2 weeks came, we set up time. We had a 3-hour conversation, because at that point they were saying, hey, we know this is what we want to hire, we don't know how to do it. And I said, give me the job, and I'll define what a community manager in Africa should look like. At that point in time, Andela had no community manager. So I came in as the first ever community manager. Then the guy in Kenya, who was recruitment manager, then became community manager. And 2 of us started to build out what that community management practice at Andela today. And so at that point in time, if anybody knew about like Andela, how we were like in all the developer communities and all those things, it was us. Like that was what we were doing. And so building that, learning on the go, learning on the fly too as well, was like who I am and how I do things. And then I've done that for like 2.5 years, helped Andela expand to Uganda and Rwanda, launched the first fellowship program in Rwanda too as well. And then you then now start to ask yourself, what more? Like, is this what it is?
So not even what next, but what more?
What more? Because it's not what next, it's what more. I don't usually look at what next, I look at what more, because people say what next is like a career planning thing. I don't believe in career plans. I believe in like a basket of skills that you have that can actually help you succeed in other things that you do. And so I remember having a conversation with like my friend Benga, who was in Andela at that point in time, was the ops manager, and we're just talking, and he's like, hey, I saw this very interesting role that they're looking for a country manager. I'm like, oh sure, why not if not? So he sent me the JD, I looked at it and I said, I can't do this thing. And he's like, yeah, you should go for it. So I went for it, I applied, got a response like 15 minutes later saying, thank you very much, we'd like to have an initial conversation with you. We had an initial 30 minutes conversation, and then after that conversation became another 30 minutes conversation. After that became a dinner that lasted for 4 hours. And after that came me flying to Uganda to go and actually do like series of interviews for 3 days. Wow. And then I now became country manager, because the idea is, hey, we're looking to expand to West Africa. We've never done it. There is no business registration. There's no entity.
You're going to figure it out from scratch.
You're going to start from scratch. And so I'm like, sure, why not if not? Give me, I'll do it for you. And so came back to Nigeria, tidied up my affairs with Andela, did my bye-byes, and then on the 6th of May, 2019, I joined SafeBoda as the country, at that point in time it was country head, as the country head. And then the idea was, okay, set up the entire business from like setting up business registration, all that, to figuring out our launch plan. How do we launch into the Nigerian market, all those things. Like I spent so much time combing Yaba, talking to Okada men, to the point like immediately I come out of my house, Okada men used to
say
greet me because like
they know you already as that
they knew
guy.
me already as that guy, and I was always like on my black t-shirt, like my jeans, and just talking to them, understanding their pain points and all those things. In the morning after doing that, in the afternoon, go and meet Lagos State government to figure out what their plan is. Like talking, lobbying, doing all that stuff. And then it was a very interesting thing because people ask whether I had like forehand knowledge that Lagos was going to ban Okada.
Yeah.
I didn't. Like, I didn't know. We had made the decision to go to Oyo October before Lagos banned Okada in February.
What
A whole bunch of things. One is the oldest city. Two is very educational. Three, Smile, the mobile, actually launched out of Ibadan and it was successful. So there was something there. And then four, the proximity to Lagos. And that like, if people are going to catch on to something quickly, it has to be Ogun or Oyo. They are the ones who will catch on to. And so we did actually scope both states. I spent time there, even in Songwater, in Abeokuta. It was very funny because like talking to the Okada men, and my Yoruba is not, it's not good because I grew up on that land. No, it's better now because like I've dealt with Okada. I have spent time with them. And then we spent all that time doing just that market research, understanding how much Okada riders were making, what were the government levies, how much, just the profit and loss of a typical Okada man. Because once you're able to understand the man's profit and loss management system, then automatically you are able to bring a total quality of life management and design around that too as well. And so we spent more, and we found out that in Oyo, there was a higher chance for the riders to come and join us because there was no NURTW. So that was the biggest factor, that because in Abeokuta and Ogun, I think the NURT guys some were collecting as much as 650 per day, some were collecting 800 naira per day from the driver. And I just looked at it and I said, there is no way this guy is going to make sense and break even if someone is collecting this amount of money from his earning, because the average earning was 2,500 naira.
Yeah.
And then he makes 2,500 averagely on a daily basis and gives out 650. He fuels his bike with around 600, 700. How much was left to take home? How much was left to maintain the bike and all that? And so we spent time boots on the ground, talking to riders, speaking their language, eating with them. I'll have packed food, I'll have like diarrhea, sort it out, but like, you just needed the guys to feel you in the grassroots. And so we did all that. And then we decided to pick Ibadan as the launch city. But at this point in time, my higher ups were still, hey, Lagos, we can do this, let's still lobby. And I'm like, hey, you know what? Get on a plane, come down, come and see it.
Oh.
And so they got on a plane, and then I organized like a 4-day tour of Ibadan. Got 6 Okada, because we're 6 guys, got 6 Okada men who were with us for the entire 4 days, paid them, I think it was 2,500 per day we were paying them, and those guys were taking us around town to see everything, and especially around the landmark of Kampala where our home country was. So the way I designed the tour was for us to go to places that were extremely similar to Kampala. So that when they see Ibadan, they can picture it, they can see it, they can feel it.
Brilliant.
And so when they left, they had so much excitement. They were like, this is where we need to go and everything. But convince the board again. It took another 4 to 5 months to convince the board to say, let us go. And then finally, we had a launch plan. We started to build a team in Ibadan, got an office space. By December, everything, the launch team was ready and the office was ready, and we then now needed to go. And then in January, we were like, hold on. In February, then Okada gets banned in Lagos. And so then people now start to ask, who was the guy who made this decision for us? Because it just seemed like a spot-on decision.
Yeah.
But at the time when we initially said we were going there, I had people coming to my DMs to say, are you okay? Are you normal? Why would you go to Ibadan and ignore Lagos? And all the blogs and the tech magazines too as well. Yes, all of them decided, oh, it was high time to write where is SafeBoda, where are they in the motorcycle wars, and all those things like that. But sometimes it's not about who is going first, who is going ahead. We were lucky because we had not gotten any physical asset on ground. So it was easy for us to pivot and change model and change location. And so we launched on the 2nd of March 2020. And then that was, COVID had already hit, but then no one was locked down. Everyone was still looking at what's this disease. And then all of a sudden the lockdowns came on the 23rd of March. And we just launched a business.
That requires people to be outside.
That requires people to be outside. That requires people to move around. And then it was like almost a nightmare. But in that time, we were still going, and we're growing what? Some months, 35% month on month. Other months, we're doing, our highest was 65% growth. And
how do you measure growth? Number of riders or bikers or?
So we measured it in 3 levels. One was the number of riders that were there, the average earning of the driver, because everything was really centered about the driver. Average earning of the driver and the total number of trips completed. There were some other metrics that showed, oh, you know what, we can still grow by like the number of requests that was made versus the number of trips, so our completion rate, all those things like that. And we kept on doing this, and this was me during COVID and the lockdown. I had to leave a team that just started launching for 1 month and come home to come and stay with my family in Lagos because I didn't move my family. And so basically we're managing the team entirely. And this is the thing about hiring great people. Like I had a great leader in like my head of marketing at that point in time, who was the physical presence, who allowed me to operate through him. So we'll talk, we'll do, this is how you need to manage your office, this is how you need to talk to people and do this is how you get, so that there is a leadership presence there, because the riders can get very funny when they realize nobody was there. And so for 1 month, managing it remote, still trying to grow. And at this point in time, all our other locations, Kenya, Uganda, was like shut down, like no rides were happening. But it was just Ibadan. But the good thing was every month at the board updates, we had like very nice stories to like tell that here's what's growing, our new baby is growing and growing and growing. By July, we had hit 100,000 rides, and then we stagnated because like we needed to figure out how do we then now take this forward. And this is something I've learned around like decision-making process, in that like if you stay and spiral too much on a decision rather than just actually going, you would actually, time will go and you will lose the momentum that you probably built at that point in time. And so we spiraled for a couple of months, to say about like 4 months. And then after spiraling for 4 months, we then now said, oh, this is the right direction to go, this is the right strategy. But for us to go on that strategy again, it was already close to December, and we knew that nothing good happens in December. Like people just shut down in December. People either go home and things like that. So we couldn't start to do growth plans in December. So we paused the growth plan and say, you know what, hey, let's continue the way we are going right now. In January, we will come and we'll come back in full force. In January, we came back in full force. By April, we had done 1 million rides. By March, we had done 1 million rides.
So in 2 months?
Yeah. By June, we had done, before the end of June, yes, we had done 1.5 million rides. And I just saw that they did 2 million rides like now. And so those give me joy too as well. And then while we were doing all that, M-kopa came.
They're like, oh yeah, no. So
and they were like, yeah, come over. And I'm like, sure, why not? But it wasn't a direct sure, why not? Because there was an entire process around it. And then
what was the factor that made you say, okay, you know what, it is time for me to leave SafeBoda, and this new opportunity is the right opportunity?
So interestingly, it was a headhunt, and so it wasn't like as if I was looking. I was having.
You didn't have to send emails.
I didn't have to send emails or anything, but that's good. There are different levels to it. And so the recruiter reached out, and I'm like, okay. Initially, I thought it was a solar company. I'm like, solar in Nigeria. Why would I want to do like in a solar company? And I'm like, nah, I'm not necessarily like interested. They were like, oh, you know, it's a great company and the money is good. And I'm like, well, it's almost similar to like, so why would I want to leave? And here, I'm already like, they trust my decision-making process here. Yeah. Like I've already built a reputation and I've proven myself to the point whereby that the guys, if I say let's go left, they don't ask me too much on why are we going left. Like I just need to tell them why the decision is left, and everyone throws their back at it. So why would I want to leave now? And then I think I then now had a conversation with Maya, who is my direct manager right now. And so if many people see my tweets, you see I tweet a lot about career stuff because I'm very career driven. And the conversation with that guy was like it. That was what sold. That was it. Like
How so?
Because he was calm. He had this presence, he had this persona, and even when I asked questions, I could feel the honesty in his answers and how he painted the business to say, hey, this is what I'm trying to achieve as the chief commercial officer. This is why you need to get on this ship. And I saw that, and immediately after I got off the call with my wife, and she's like, oh, so how are those guys you were talking? I said, oh, our new company. Like, and I'm sure like, one day me and him will sit down and we'll tell the story, because that was what I, like, initially I was saying, you know, telling my wife some guys are disturbing me.
And
then
like,
immediately
our
I
new
leave
company.
because I say our new company. And she's like, what happened in the space of 1 hour? And then I started to speak with like all the C-level guys, and I could see how these guys were like light years ahead. And I could see how I could learn so much from these guys, how I could build myself, how I could like expose myself to more things that I didn't even know existed. And so the entire process took what, 4 months? Yeah, so the process was from January, and then I got the offer first week of April, yeah. And so I had like a 2-3 months transition period because I needed to ensure that SafeBoda wasn't going to like, not be there, and then figure out who was going to take over, how were we going to think of that process, do we need to go and hire someone and all that. And luckily, there were people within the company or within my team who were ready for that mantle too as well. They might not have been ready, but like, you don't know when someone is ready until you put them in there and they start to prove themselves. And so it was a very happy exit. It was, I felt like proud, and I'd done work, and it was work that people recognized, because by the time I was leaving, we had gone from 0 rides to 10,000 rides a day. And that is something. Yeah. Like anybody who has started something from 0 to 1 would tell you that like, that is amazing. Yeah. And so I left, joined M-kopa, and here I am.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like, guys, let's close the video now. But it's obviously like a lot to learn. So like, let's go back to the Andela days, right? Yeah. When you started Andela, it was your first time at a tech startup. You had done like corporate, you had done Phillips Consulting, corporate, Access Bank, corporate. And now you're here at a company with like young guys like you. They just came back and said, we want to change the ecosystem. Yeah. Right? What was the culture shock that you experienced, and how was like the early days?
So for my first 6 months, I used to wear white corporate t-shirts and blue jeans, and I'm talking with a brown belt and
6 months?
Yeah, first 6 months. And so when people see Black Ops, there is a reason why like I always wear only black t-shirts and jeans. So 6 months I'm dressed like that. And then one day I was talking to Shani, and we were standing somewhere, I was talking to Shani, and their visitors came. And so when the visitors came in, they looked at him and they looked at me and they were like, oh, we're here to see you, that we're looking for the country director, that are you the one?
That's you.
Yeah. And then I look at Shani and I'm like, no, it's this dude. And then I looked at it and I looked at the way that I was dressed. I kind of like looked very overdressed with my white, like it was, you know, the banker's white shirt.
Yeah,
and
with
like blue jeans,
cufflinks
and everything. And so I'm just like, I can't do this. So I went online, ordered like 10 black shirts.
Why black?
I was wearing white. The only option I could go to was black. Right. I thought about navy blue, but then black just like seems like it. Like black goes with everything. Yeah. And so it just felt that like black should be the option. So I ordered black long sleeve shirts.
Oh, okay. Well, now we got into like the
short sleeve. No. So I ordered black long sleeve shirts, and then I just switched. And then the first day I came with like the black hair was like, what's going on? And then I'm like, you know what, I'm not doing that. So there was a whole lot of culture shock in the way that people were generous and gracious. I remember having a conversation with Sheni, and Sheni was like, hey, Babajide, if you're going to succeed, you need to be authentic with yourself. I can see you fighting with some of the things you've learned in the traditional environment that would not necessarily help you succeed here. And he was very kind to give me that feedback, to say, hey, forget all those things. That I know that you will struggle and you will say, oh, but what if I leave Andela today and I need to go back into the industry? Do I need to keep this myself who is outspoken, who challenges upwards, all those things? And it's like, you know what, if you're authentic, people will see that authenticity and they would appreciate it. And so in everything I've gone and I've done, I take that authenticity with me. Like being authentic, being who I am, being this is it. Like there is no fuss around it. Like even during interviews when they ask me certain things and I don't know, I'm like, you know what, I'm sorry, I don't know. But like I can go figure out or find it out, but I don't know it. And I don't come with like as if, oh, I know it and I've been there and I've done it before type mindset and all that. Like even coming to M-kopa, like I've forgotten about my success at SafeBoda. So I don't go around saying, oh, I've successfully built a company. No, I sit down and listen. Because that is the only way you can impact, by knowing things, combining the old knowledge with whatever new knowledge you have. And so you don't just come in and boss around and say, I'm going to change the entire ship. What you're doing is nonsense. Because no, what they were doing was fantastic. They needed someone to just come in to scale it up. And so you need to be able to, and those were the culture shift that I had to like learn over time. And at Andela, I actually like learned this thing because like I had great leaders who kept on like giving me feedback. In fact, like my boss then, at that point in time, we were constantly at loggerheads. We were always fighting too as well. Up to the extent that at some point, Shani had to be a mediator between two of us and say, one day you guys are going to kill each other. And at the end of the day, today we have a mutually found respect for each other to say, hey, I respect you, what you're doing. We don't necessarily have to be best buddies, but there's that respect too. And so those were the changes that had to happen over time for me to be able to get to where I am.
Interesting. And I imagine that after you then moved, like when you were leading community at Andela and you're done all this culture shift, and here you are going to a startup that wasn't, that when you look at it from the outside, it feels more like a bike Okada business than a tech company, right? So you're like, oh yes, it's a tech company, but you have to do like the grassroots. And it's not like you have like a boss now, like in Nigeria, you are the boss, right? So it's like the responsibilities on you. So what was now the shift that you experienced here? And like, oh, this is different. I have the skill set, I can learn the things I need to learn, but fundamentally it's very different. Like, how did you manage that?
So a whole bunch of things. Like I tell people, there is a gist and a story around like the MC Oluomo. It was someone that gave me the name on Twitter, but like, I was really an MC Oluomo with a MacBook because I've said I've actually like taken off my shirt before and I've like punched the wall, like with Okada riders, because that is the language that everyone understands. They come into the office, they see you. I remember them saying, oh, we were using their money to drink tea or something, like trying to like cause a fracas. And so I was scared because like these guys were like angry. And then here I am, I've only fought once in my life. And you see I wear glasses because like I don't see very well. And so when I wanted to fight, I threw the glasses away and I ran and I didn't see the guy and I punched the shadow and I fell down. So that's why I don't fight. And then I'm going to go and lead an Okada business, which is like, you're dealing with like the grassroots Nigerian. And so I had to like switch. You couldn't be like too fresh. They needed to see you as their own. So I've done situations whereby like I'd removed my shirt and I was punching the wall and I'm saying, where is my money in Yoruba? And I'm punching the wall and saying, where's my money? And then the riders are like, the riders are actually coming to try and pacify me down to say, hey, this is it. And I lived like an Okada rider. I had my own jacket, I had my helmet. When we're going out, I was always in front with a rider. Like I was through and through like a pack rider and park manager. Like we'll sit, we'll have community meetings, we'll talk, they'll hear their own views, me too, I'll air my own views. There was a day I even gave them, put a whiteboard, I gave one of them a marker and say, yeah, start writing. Come and show me the calculation because that's meaning my money is not complete.
Yeah.
And so all those shifts is how, when I look at it and I say I don't necessarily have a plan of like, oh, this is what I'm looking to do.
Yeah.
I have like skill sets that I look out and then I transfer it into the roles that, so I'm very good at transference into the roles and I put my all into it. Whether it's my business or not my business, like it is still the thing that funds whatever lifestyle I want to have. And so I put my all, I own it, I sleep, eat, breathe it. Like I have a sense of ownership to the point when I was leaving, people were like, did I exit? And it was funny to see because I'm just like, I'm just an employee. And so that's what it is in like having a sense of ownership in the thing. And I take it to it's for every company that I work in. Like at Andela, I did it like as if it was my own. If you check my Twitter page, you can see all my content. It's like blue, orange, now it's green. All the brand colors too as well. Like I'm not a cultist, but like I flew the brand colors like really, really well. And I owned it and I wore it on my sleeve because that was what was paying for my bills. That was what was helping me like do whatever I wanted to do. Yeah. And so why not own it? And so all those shifts is not all rosy. There are times where you look at it and you're just frustrated. There are times where you're like, you want to give up, you want to throw in the towel. Or there are times you just be like, hey, I should have just had a regular desk job. But at the end of the day, the wins when those things happen and you see the way it transforms people's lives is what gives you that excitement. The way you like look at it when a rider comes in and he tells you that, oh, because he works at SafeBoda now, he can do X, Y, Z. I was surprised when some riders were sending their children to private schools. Wow. But guess what? This guy was in Ibadan making what? 160, 107,000 monthly as an Okada rider. Wow. So
from the 2.5 a day that they were making before.
Exactly, because like you start to see people who are making 7-8K on a daily basis and they work 6 times a week. And you see the way their lives just transform and change. Like it was same thing at Andela where you saw many of the guys, and because I was at the entry point, I used to see them. Yeah. And then by the time they were getting to D1, like D2, you could see boys. They were like big boys. You could see the transformation in that person's life. And so me, I took joy in that to say, this is whatever I'm doing is helping people become better. And so in that way, as people are getting better, I'm getting better, we're all getting better.
That's amazing. So when people hear your story, right, especially the way I've said it, it sounds very rosy. Like, oh, the jobs have come with challenges, but it's like, you're a badass, so you kill it anyway. Like, start with data entry and you're like, no, you have something better to do, come on, do HR, and next thing you're working on access, and next thing you're working on this. Like, it sounds really rosy, but what are like the mistakes or challenges that has rocked your career that you felt like, man, this one was a big one? I've come out of it, but you know that this was either a pivotal mistake or like a big challenge that even when you were facing, you're like, I don't know how I'm going to face it. But in hindsight, you've done so now. So
I do have 2 stories that I anchor on because in every one of it, there is always a lesson that you learn. The first one was at Phillips Consulting, where we were recruiting for the chairman of FIRS and the secretary for health, NHIS then. And so Phillips Consulting had been tasked to do that recruitment. And so I was managing the recruitment. And then we had this advert that was supposed to go out in the national dailies. And so we designed the entire Corel Draw at that point in time. And we had like draft on it. So you put the draft to know the final copy that will actually go out. Then you take out the draft. Eh? But between myself, the graphic designer, and the printing press on the 4 national dailies, we all missed the draft. So we didn't take the draft watermark out. And then it went out in the national dailies. And then because of the type of printers they use in newspaper companies, the draft became the real text and the text became the watermark. So imagine having the FIRS chairman's job with a massive draft, full-page advert on all the national dailies. Punch, Vanguard, Business Day. Just And so I remember I knew that like for sure I was going to get fired because like, yeah. I wasn't even the one who saw it. It was someone else that saw it and they came out there like, you're dead. I knew I was going to get fired. And so for 2 days, I kept on dodging my partner, my practice partner at the firm. And he noticed I was dodging him. And so he had planned with my colleagues. I was working on we used to sit in a cubicle and it had only one exit. So I was walking in the cubicle, everybody somewhat mysteriously left. And then all of a sudden the guy came in and he stood by the entrance of the cubicle. I said, so now where do you want to run? I'm there frozen with my laptop, looking back at him like this, and he's looking at me and he's like, we need to talk. And I'm like, yep, here it is. I'm gone. I already started preparing mentally of how my sack was going to be and how I was going to tell my mother. And then he's like, you know, people make mistakes and we all make mistakes, but your mistakes do not define you. And because of this one mistake, I'm not going to throw all the good thing you've done away. And that one single act of kindness was something I took to as well. So when people even make mistakes on my team, I'm like, stop beating yourself for it. Did you learn from it? And then I learned from it. Today, I cannot put out work that I'm not proud to put my name under. Like when I put out a report and the report actually goes out, I'm proud to do. Like the report then, Okonjo was Minister of Finance. Yeah. So the recruitment report, she saw it because it was her department that was handling it. She saw it and there was even like some feedback that came out from that. And so that was one. The second one was at Andela where, so it seemed like I was due for a promotion and I was supposed to get promoted. I figured like I was going to get promoted. The mindset that I had between myself, my boss, everybody was like, Babajide is becoming a senior manager. I go on holiday, I come back, and I don't get it. Right. Obviously, we had some mediation conversations to say, why did this not happen? But one thing I took out of that was that I could have been angry and everybody would have seen that anger and they would have transferred that to my job and I wouldn't have been doing well. But despite the fact that every day I was angry, every time I went to work, I still put in my best. I acted like nothing was happening. Like it burnt me, it hurt me a lot. I acted like nothing was happening. And so sometimes I see a lot of people who feel that they deserve something and they don't get it and they get angry. They start to throw a fit and they start to like, you know, burn bridges and cause mayhem and go on Twitter rants. Like those things hurt you on the long run because at the end of the day, sometimes those disappointments are meant for good. Like in every disappointment I've had, there was always something that came out of it that was good. It was the good I always saw out of that disappointment. And so I was angry in my house. I was upset, but I was never angry in the office. I kept on chatting with my colleagues. I was very formal. My KPIs were not suffering because what typically will happen is you see people will be performing and then all of a sudden they don't get that promotion that was due and then they just dip. And so those two things were like things that I anchor on. And every time that I have mentees, I tell them those stories and I go in depth to like the place of the hurt because like there was real hurt. And then I go in depth and I say, look at it today. Like every time I look back at that silly guy that was angry, even me, I'm still angry with that guy that was angry. Like why were you angry? And so that's why sometimes never make permanent decisions because of the temporary way you feel. Yeah. So don't burn bridges because it's always going to, like, you will always regret it.
That's an amazing story. Amazing stories, actually. Like the one of just extend grace to people. Yep. It's very, very important. And I see how when people give you grace, it becomes easier for you to transfer it and just becomes like a ripple effect. Yep. And then the fact about just like not letting something that you expected to come, not letting just like make you suffer or like deter you or say, you know what, I'm not working for this company anymore. Yeah. Because like when you persevere and you like push past that, then there's usually a greater good that can happen to you at the end. That's like really brilliant advice. So I see on Twitter that you're an advocate for moving companies, right? Like people say, stay in a company, grow, you know, get promoted, senior manager, director, on and on and on and on. But I've seen you say a couple of times, like if you have an opportunity, like move around, like that's how you grow faster and that's how you get more compensation. Do you want to like talk a bit more about it?
Yeah, so I think the reason why I'm where I am today is my ability to solve problems. It's not because I was the best launcher or the best commercial person or the best salesman or the best country manager or the best country director. It's the ability to solve problems. And this was something I picked from my consulting days. And when you work for multiple clients in multiple industries, the way your problem solving grows. Like sometimes when I tell people this, your brain is a muscle too as well. So you build your brain and your mental capacity. The same way we say we want to stay fit is how we constantly run, go to the gym, exercise. It's the same way your brain too needs to stay fit and sharp. So you need to constantly exercise the brain
Challenge
and
yourself.
challenge the brain so that the brain is constantly thinking and the brain is constantly problem solving. Like it's not dealing with the same old problems for 5 years. Like the brain is like moving and constantly moving. And so I quickly learned this like very early because I'd spent 4 years at Phillips Consulting. I'd spent 3 years at Access. And then Andela, I'd spent 2.5 years. And then all of a sudden my first like came. And then I'm like, oh, this is great and is amazing and interesting. But sometimes you want to stay, but the market decides what the market decides. And so at this point right now, because I've actually now seen someone that I feel that like can 10x my career right now, I'm willing to stay because like you sit with the guy and you talk to him, you can already see yourself in light years to say, hey, this is where I'm going to go. And so it's dependent on a whole bunch of factors. Are you being challenged mentally? Also, for you to climb the ladder. When I left the bank, I was a banking officer. The banking officer was how many steps away from GM? Today, I'm a general manager. And so in the bank, you had to be a senior banking officer, an assistant manager, a deputy manager, a senior manager, an assistant general manager, a deputy manager before you became a general manager. So that was 8 levels away.
And each level will probably take like 2-3 years.
If you were fast, you spend 2 years in each level. So basically 8, that's 16 years. But then look at it today. I've spent what? Between Access and M-kopa, I've spent let's say 3 years in Andela, about 2 years in, so basically 5 years to get to jump that hurdle. And so that's how I think about it, that's how I see it. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone because you must be the kind of person, and I've noticed certain things. I'm the kind of guy that I probably would not go to like a Microsoft at this point in time.
Why?
Because I don't think I will thrive in that environment because I'm already where the decision is being made and close to the decision circles that allows my creativity to come into actually influence things like that. And then you go into those kind of organizations, you just get buried. And so I know where I want to play with my career and in my space. So I'm extremely intentional about it. I'm intentional about the kind of jobs that I take. Like, M-kopa wasn't the only company who came to talk to me, but M-kopa was the only company who could actually like
get your attention,
get my attention and get me out of like SafeBoda. And so I'm very intentional about it. And there are so many things layered on that too as well. And if people want to grow, they need to leave because like the best you can do is you get promoted 3 times. Typically with a promotion, you get what, 20% increase in salary. Yeah, in that 3 times, that's like 60%. When I've seen people who have changed jobs and they get like 200% increase. And so that's how I like say it. Don't worry, I'm not leaving M-kopa anytime soon.
I was just in my head, I was talking about that 200%. I said, Babajide's bank account was expiring every month now.
Apparently it's not. It's not. It's not, because there is always need for
like,
more money.
Where your taste is now, your level.
Funny enough, I don't even have such a huge taste. Like I'm not. Every day, me and my wife like we laugh and we say we are too simplistic for where we are income-wise, because like it's not just only me; it's 2 of us. Like 2 of us are very simplistic. Like it's just the black shirts, it's the blue jeans, it's the sneakers. it's not the Mercedes. Like I had an Audi and I driven a German car and it was good and it was nice. But like those things don't necessarily define me, and I don't necessarily need to have them to naturally feel happy.
Yeah.
Like other things make me feel happy. And so it's like, how am I building wealth for my next generation so that like when my son is like me, he's not getting
In
to
which
start.
there is only Skybank that my father has.
Exactly. In which there is only Skybank that my father's connect to as well. And he'll be open to a world of opportunities too. And so it's like building for the future too as well. And so for me, people say, oh, you know, how do you get rich as an operator? But guess what? If you're the best at what you do, you're always going to be rich. Like when I tell people, I say, chase value, money will chase after you. Once you are chasing the value, the money is chasing you.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's the value. What value are you adding? Are you adding value to like companies? When people see you and you're building within a space, like do they look at you and they're just in awe of the value that you are adding? If people are in awe of that, then the money will chase you. It will always chase you.
That's amazing.
So money, chase me.
Also, so when you were talking about M-kopa, you said that when they first reached out to you and you're like, this is a solar company, I'm not really sure. But then you spoke to your current manager and like, because of this guy and of course the other people I want to work. So that's the people part of it. But what about the business also? Was it just the people that was enough?
So,
or did you learn more about the business? And
the person was enough to show me what was under the hood of the business. And that's where like great leaders differentiate how you attract talent. And so when you say under the hood, it's like you seeing a car and saying, oh, this is a nice car. Yeah. For those who are like engine buffs and they open it and they start to see the turbo engine,
that's
and they
when
start to see
they know
that this is a nice car. And this guy opened the hood and showed me what was underneath it. And I was like,
damn.
Wow. And so yes, it started off as a solar company, but today it's a connected asset financing company. It's one of the largest financiers for mobile phones, asset-wise, in Africa. And so you see that, and you see what is under the hood, and you're just like, this is amazing. And you see the mechanics who are building it, and you are just like, you know what, hey, even if it's the tire I'm changing, I want to change the tire of this car. And so that was how the conversation happened. Like I spoke to Maya first, then I spoke to Jesse, and I spoke to Hayo. And immediately I got on a call with my coach and I said, these guys, by the time I work with them, I'm going to be 10x. Like if people think I'm the shit now, wait till they see me working with these guys 2-3 years and they will be mind blown by what it is. Like they will just be like, who is this guy? Because I could see those guys and I could see, and it's just 3 months and I can already see the difference. Like if I was going to build SafeBoda today, I even think I would even be much more successful than where we were, because I can see the difference. I could see like how they were like structured thinkers, how they could measure, how they could plan, like amazing. And so you see that level of excitement that like I'm talking about, like my job too as well. And I'm so like happy and excited to like be part of the company and change what we're doing and grow, because like many people say, oh, you know, you're GM, all this, but like there's still so much room for growth. There's so much to learn. So it's not what next, it's what can I? One more can I learn?
You mentioned life coach. And see, I follow you on Twitter. So I know that you're very big on having like a career coach, not necessarily a life coach. Right?
Actually a life coach, everything.
Right. So like, how did you find yours, and what has been the value of having like a coach that you can say, you know what, I can submit to this person's teaching also?
So it's a very interesting story, because I remember when I found my coach and I could barely scrap $100 to like pay for like coaching sessions. I found my coach when I was a first-time manager at Andela. So basically, this guy has been with me all through this entire journey. So even through the like pitfalls, the downfalls, some of the things that like I wasn't happy about, he has walked me and coached me through. And so he had raised my awareness. He had raised, okay, how to understand what is at play within every organization. He has raised, okay, how do you want to show up and how are you currently being experienced by people? Like, do you want to show up this way and you're being experienced this way? How do you close that gap? And so it's been very, very transformational for me. Like, I remember signing on with him and we said, in 5 years' time, I want to have a seat at the table in a company. And what that meant was I wanted to either become like in a general management or senior management type situation. We achieved that in 2.5 years of coaching. Although there was so much work that was done on my part, but like this guy has been with me like through and through. And it's just been amazing. Like, two of us have grown together. Today, I've introduced him to other people within like the Nigerian ecosystem that he actively coaches. And we have this like very nice, small, chatty group that way we just talk about the guy and we're like, this guy's coaching and this is what he told me, this is what he said, and things like that. And so he's someone who had worked in Nigeria at Shell, was HR in Shell. He was in a special team where they were like doing like the succession planning and talent management of a company. That is one of the strongest arms of HR you ever, the talent management side. And then he left, went to Canada, was part of those first set of people that migrated to Canada. Went to Canada, worked at Walmart in HR and all those things. And then now he's like retired and just like coaching. And so you see, it even gives him joy for him to see people like grow. And this is someone that I would take any day, anytime. Like, I remember having a conversation with my manager now, and he's like, hey, I would like to know more about you as a person. Who can I get that knowledge from? And I'm like, talk to my coach. And so he spoke to my coach, and two of them aligned. And now that they're aligned, I'm very happy because like I know that like I'm actually going to grow and I'm looking forward to it. And so that's what a coach does for you. It's transformational. Like you start to see things, you start to hear things, you start to understand what is going on, what's at play at every point in time. You start to make a decision-making process. Even while I was at SafeBoda, it was a very interesting story when I turned down a 66% increase in salary to stay at SafeBoda. And so I have stories for days because people don't necessarily do that. Like, you don't turn down such money to stay at a company that at that point we had not even launched. And so this person was there to help me refine that decision to say, you know what, stay. And today it paid off. Like, it paid off like a lot.
Massively.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean, I know that you're a family man too, right? I see like videos and pictures of your wife and your kids. And you mentioned at the very beginning of the interview that you grew up with a single mom.
Yeah.
What has that upbringing, has it affected how you're building your family now?
So it was hard and tough growing up without a dad. I'm not going to lie, because like you have so many things that you want to understand from a male figure in your life and you don't. Why I say my coach is a life coach is because he helped me walk through some of those hate, the pain, and the anguish so that I do not go and make that mistake. Like, people don't like the situation they're in and they get into it. And I'm not perfect. Like, there are days where I will slip up. There are days where, like, sometimes if you speak to my wife, herself, two of us drive each other crazy. Like, but it's been 6 years of us driving each other crazy and we're still like getting better at it. And so for us, I remember having a conversation with my coach and he's like, hey, I do understand that like you're becoming this very like influential person and everybody needs to know you and you're getting like your status is changing. Well, for every job as your status changes, when you get home, you still need to be Babajide to Shehu. Not a general manager, not country director, not any. You need to be Babajide to her. So when I get home, I'm like, I'm Babajide to her. I forget like whatever titles are there. I'm like there to serve her and while she serves me, because like marriage for me is all about like service. Both of us serving each other to ensure that we are pushing the family's good ahead. And so that's what like I've been doing, and I'm very happy and excited. Every job that I take, I always tell them that family is very important to me. And so if your job is going to make me not spend time with my family, just hold your job. And so like I'm very conscious about it. Like today I've taken my son swimming. I'm stressed because like Nigeria will stress you and like building a business in Nigeria stresses you, but I'm not losing any sleep. I'm still having time to connect with my family. Nobody's breathing down my neck for targets on a Saturday afternoon telling me where is this report that they are not going to action until Monday evening. So like all those things are extremely important to me, and so because I have that ability to, with that grace, I extend it to other people too as well. Like everybody needs to be with their family, everybody needs to have family time too as well. And so yeah, family for me is like everything. I'm not Dominic Toretto, but like, family is everything.
Amazing. Like I feel like this conversation can keep going.
Yes,
but it's
I know.
a video, so I have to like cut it short at some point. But I've learned so many things, and I'll try and itemize some of them, right? And I'll ask you the final question. Like when you talk about extending grace, like that resonates with me a lot. And it's not even just at work. It's just like in life generally, extend grace to people. You don't even know the shit they're going through, so like extend grace to people. When you talk about knowing how to manage your emotions, so it's not just anger, right? You just manage your emotions and showing up as authentically as you can and keep doing the work regardless of what it is you're going through, right? And you can be emotional at home, but when you get to the office, do the work, right? And just being diligent at it, because when people hurt you at work and your KPIs are not going down, that's a proof of diligence and saying, hey, I'm going to just like keep doing the excellent work, right? And then you said, whatever you do, whether it's your business or not, you are like, it's 100% ownership for you. Like I'm doing my very best, I'm being as excellent as possible. And in the beginning, you talked about just, I might not have this exact skill set I need for this role, but I've had some skills that is transferable and I will learn on the job. And I think that's very phenomenal, because there are a lot of people who would not apply for jobs just because I'm not sure I'm there yet, right? Especially women, right? It's just like, if I'm not like, I've seen the statistics that if women are not 100%, 105% like qualified for a role, they won't apply. But men will probably be like 80% and they would. But it's like across the board, it's like, do it afraid. One of my mentors always says, like, do it afraid. It means that I can be scared to my bones, I can feel unqualified, I can feel inadequate, but with all of those feelings, I will still do and show up and then just get better as you go. And then just understanding the value of having people that can support you. It could be a coach, it could be your wife, who will say, hey, you know, if you want the job, think about it. Like that's very important. So there's so much to learn from your journey, right? But for you personally, with this wealth of 10 years experience, right, across board, like different industries, different kind of work, you've fought. What is that one big lesson? Like when you look back, it's like there's this, maybe it's not even a mantra, there's this big one, like it's something you would always carry, like you would always come to mind first.
So for me, it's when people say luck. For me, and I always say it every time, and people have tried to like counter me with it a lot of time, it's when preparation meets opportunity. Like when people say, oh, I got lucky, but you were prepared, and that's why you were able to like seize that opportunity for the luck to happen. I would say I've been lucky a lot in my career, in my life, meeting the kind of person I met to like marry, the kind of companies I've worked in, I've been lucky. Like when you were saying certain things, I remember at the SafeBoda interview, I finally saw the interview evaluation, and from my first interview, they were like, oh, he's not the strongest candidate, but he's a nice to have, let him go through. And so all those kind of things, and I've seen it play out to say, when the opportunity comes and arises, do you show up? Are you prepared to grab that opportunity? Like even at M-kopa too as well, like I somewhat did research on the candidates who were like competing with the role, and if you see their profiles, they were this shit. And so for me, it's that like every time I'm lucky is because I was prepared, and so when the opportunity came, I was able to grab it. So that's how I live my life. That's the mantra. So even if I'm not doing anything, I'm always constantly just prepared. I'm constantly, like, people would think you slow down. I'm still constantly reading books. I'm still actively with my coach. I'm taking more business
So like
courses.
the self-improvement is consistent.
Yes, it's to the point whereby you are addicted. So I think I'm addicted to it. Like, and anybody who works with me and who has been on my team will tell you that, like, for that self-improvement, like, it's like I'm a junkie around it. That I need to be better than yesterday. Like, I don't need to be massively better.
But
I need to be better. One thing. Progress before perfection. I don't believe in perfection. I believe in progress. And for me, it's everything. It's around the decision-making progress. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let's move forward.
Let's move forward.
Like, take a step forward. Don't be stuck. Don't stay in the same
So you won't
place.
ever repeat that 4 months of just like being stagnant and
No,
saying, what I'm
never
trying to
again.
decide.
Never again. Never again. And today, like, if I still have conversations with the SafeBoda folks and they get stuck, I would tell them, like, here's what you need to do. You need to move forward. Like, do something new. Don't, like, launch a product. Like, build that excitement, because once you are stagnant, then it starts to affect the team. Everybody starts to have this, then everybody is dragging. And then you start to see people coming work late. And these are people who used to come early, and then all of a sudden they are showing up late. Like, it's all those things that transfer into the team.
Right. There's a question I forgot to ask you. What's your leadership style?
My leadership style. So if a whole lot of things. So I'm very direct. You will always know where you stand with me. But I'm also very free, because, like, I spoil. So I believe in connecting with people, and so I'll connect with you to solve the problem deep down.
Right.
I don't believe in, like, you micromanaging people, but I'll fire you. Like, and I will be very kind.
I'll connect with you.
But I will be very kind with firing you. Like, I've laid a few people off in my, like, career. When I see it's not working, I don't dilly-dally and wait. I would just rather, like, put both of us out of our misery, because I know there's someone out there who needs that job and will do better. And you need to be released to be able to do better somewhere else too as well. And so for me, that's what it is. It's like leading with empathy, leading with from the second chair, like, put your people up, celebrate them, reward them, be their advocate, be their cheerleader. Like, that's why whoever that Nigerian founder is and say, I love my team. Yeah, because I love my team. Like, and that's what it is. I will always advocate for my people. I will always put them through. And when you are in my circle, that's one thing people don't understand. Whether you work with me today or you work with me like 3-5 years ago, when you are in my circle, we might not even talk. But the day something comes up, there are so many people that came to Andela that were my referral, that it wasn't a case of them applying for the job. We had not even spoken in years, but they are my people, I have this, like, mini cabal, and I pick up the phone and call them and I say, hey, I have something for you. Like, same thing at M-kopa. Like, my finance manager, as I was coming in, and the first thing that they were just saying, we need a finance thing. I picked up the phone and I said, hey, I have something for you, because I've seen your work, you deliver great work, and I can see the culture that we would not struggle. I'm going to go and manage something new. I need all the allies that I can get. And so that's how I think about it. Once you are, like, part of my people, like,
how do we apply to be part of your people?
Interestingly, you are my people. Because, like, remember, you and I, we've had, like, multiple conversations at that point. And I'm always willing and happy to, like, sit and help people think through it. But it's not everybody, because I get a barrage of people saying, I have this idea, come and mentor me and everything. And sometimes I ignore people. It's not necessarily because I'm wicked, it's just because I don't have the capacity to spread myself thin like that. So I'm always very critical about the people, and I test people to see, okay, are they really sure about what they want, or they're just, faffing.
Amazing. Again, right, there's just been so many lessons, but I can feel Tito being like, this video is like 2 hours long. Okay, so cut it.
I'm sorry.
No, definitely not. I have a feeling that I'll call you back again, because I have so many more questions. But first of all, I just want to say thank you for, like, honoring this conversation and, like, being very open to share. When I follow you and I see your content, I've always known there's a lot. Like, every time I see stuff, I'm like, there's something to learn, or even if it's just to be inspired by you. But to sit with you and hear you tell the story and, like, sort of, like, get the backstory and, like, what drives the decision, it's like another level of respect, right? So it's like, I'm gushing, right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I did. Please leave your comments. I'm going to put M-kopa, the URL on video, so you can check out what Babajide is building right now. I'll put his Twitter handle also in the description. Please follow him and, you know, be a fan like I am a fan. But hey, most importantly, share the video and don't leave this channel without subscribing. I beg you in the name of everything you believe in. Like, help my life, guys. Help my life. All right, see you in the next video. Peace out.